welcome back to the Burn. I am Ryan Van Deaver, and we are presented to you by Hot Zone Sports. The information that you need to know, built with you in mind, for the people, by the people, and with the people. Join the Hot Zone Sports community today. Now, I must explain why we have been gone for, about 3 weeks. Well, there's this little thing going around called the flu, pneumonia, walking pneumonia, chemical pneumonia. Heard that one too. Well, we were sick for about 3 weeks. It was pretty wild. And anyway, we're back. And if you are sick, my prayers go out to you because there's some nasty stuff going around. But let's get right back into the show because, our show is wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. So if you could rate and review us, we would really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, first off, congratulations. You found us. It's not that easy to find us these days. Secondly, subscribe to the show and then hit that notification button so you'll always know when our content drops. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And wherever you use social media, we are there. That's right. You can find us at all Hot Zone Sports on all social media platforms. Now, getting into this episode, we're going to be touching on the Raiders. Why would we touch on the Raiders? I'll tell you why. Should they go after a veteran quarterback or draft quarterback Shador Sanders? Next, we're going to get into the Myles Garrett trade rumors. Man, there is lots of trade rumors going on to what's probably the best non-quarterback player that's ever been on the NFL market. Like, it's just wild that he just wants out of Cleveland. I mean, it's not wild. They're a complete dumpster fire at this point, especially with all that money that they just have to sit on with Deshaun Watson. But next, after that, we're going to be talking about the Giants. Should they trade the number 3 pick to the Rams for Matthew Stafford? Yeah, we're going to take a real deep dive into that one. And then Luka Dončić. He's been with the Lakers for 24 days now. He's played 4 games. After tonight, it's going to be 5. So let's review that. But that is what's going to be on the docket for this episode. And let's just get right into it. Will the Raiders go after a veteran quarterback or draft Shador Sanders? The Raiders are sitting at number 6 in the upcoming NFL draft. This is going to be Tom Brady's very first opportunity to have some influence on the quarterback position. Now, don't get it twisted. He's not going to have a lot of influence on every single player, when it comes to the NFL draft. That's not why they're going to bring him in. They're bringing him in because he's the self-proclaimed GOAT. Sorry, Patriots fans, Buccaneers fans, it is what it is. They are bringing him in for his expertise in the quarterback position. Makes sense, right? I mean, won a lot of Super Bowls, and he himself was a 6th, 7th round pick. So, but this is going to be his very first opportunity. And if there's one thing you know about Brady, it's that he doesn't believe that rookie quarterback should be thrust into the starting job right away. They can be if they're ready, but a lot of the time they're not. Just look at Anthony Richardson from the Colts. Sorry, Colts fans. I'm going to keep it 100. It is what it is. He was not ready to be thrust in that position on day one, and it has shown. But if you add into the dynamic that Brady has spent some time with Shador Sanders, he's real close friends with Deion Sanders, and he's been spending a lot of time with him in the offseason. He has for the past couple of off seasons, actually. But there's another part to this. Do they go out and bring in a guy like Sam Darnold? Free agency hasn't started, so we don't know how that's going to roll out. Are the Vikings going to sign him, or are they just going to let him walk? Now, if they let him walk, Sam Darnold is ultimately going to get Baker Mayfield type of money. Okay, he proved it this past season, whether it be the system, whether it be the weapons that he had. I can see him getting 3 years, $100 million type of range. But if there's one thing that we know, it's that Tom Brady's ultra competitive, and he does not want to miss on this position. He's going to weigh all the options and use his influence at the table.
Yeah, the Raiders have been having these problems with their QB position for years. I mean, they got Gardner Minshew. They have Aiden O'Connell, who they thought was something, but he was just too bad on those turnovers. But then before that, they had Jimmy G. That didn't go well because the turnovers, man. But I think if they get a quarterback that can play day one and can do something, like you got Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, you got an average wide receiver, maybe more than average, Kobe Myers, but then you got some studs on the defense that will help you out. I mean, Tom Brady knows about defense. He had great defense his whole career, but I'm just saying. But I think Tom Brady's motive here is to find a quarterback that they're not going to start day one, but we all saw this year rookies starting day one, and it's been pretty good. I mean, Bo Nix, winning season. He went to the playoffs, didn't do well, but he succeeded. And then you have Jaden Daniels. I mean, some quarterbacks coming out of college, they won't succeed day one. Like you said, Anthony Richardson, but you never know. Shador Sanders could be too hyped. We don't know that yet.
You know, if there's one thing about the Sanders family is they are going to hide all of their people. Okay, and Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, that's their people. Okay, also his other sons as people too, but you know he obviously proved in the Senior Bowl practices that he's really not going to be an upper tier talent, first round talent, maybe not even second round. But the combine starts on Thursday. And just for anybody that wants this type of information, the quarterbacks will throw on Saturday. They actually arrived in Indianapolis today. And, it came out today that Shador Sanders is not going to throw. I don't think it's a big deal. I really don't. This is going to continue to happen. It happened last year where Jaden Daniels didn't throw, Caleb Williams didn't throw. Plus, by all reports, it's not the greatest place to throw anyway. It's not the greatest environment. I mean, a lot of these coaching staffs, they don't even go anymore. This is basically an opportunity to see their football IQ because this is their first exposure to these players because a lot of these coaches don't really watch college football except for Andy Reid. He watches college football and Sean McVay, he watches college football. Basically, if you are a leader of these top franchises, you're going to want to cover your bases. And that's what the combine is all about. It's nothing more than that. I mean, Lamar Jackson a few years ago, he decided not to run the 40. I don't know why. He just decided not to run the 40. I mean, that would have been his opportunity to impress the scouts. But then you have Anthony Richardson a couple years ago where he blew away everybody in the crowd, with his 40. And then, quarterbacks, they don't do the bench, but all of these measurables, he blew away teams, but we saw where he's at now. So I don't think the combine is. It's more for just all the glitz and the glam. Who's going to have the fastest 40? Who's going to have uh, the the highest jump, stuff like that. But people get excited, and the combine gives us content to talk about.
Yeah, I don't see most of the drills in the combine actually necessary. I mean, 40-yard dash, really you only see the running backs and the wide receivers actually, maybe cornerbacks actually want to participate in that, because teams are going to want to see what the wide receivers get on their 40-yard. But I think it's really okay that quarterbacks don't participate in that throwing competition, because there's many things that could happen. They could hurt their arm. That would be bad in the preseason when they're practicing with the team. But I think that just raises the draft stock of players that were going to get drafted in like the third, second round. It might raise them up to the second round. Never know, but I think it really doesn't matter. It just tries to show the coaches that haven't watched college to see what the players have done.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is going to be, you're obviously going to meet the players, talk to them, get a feel for them, and then the press conferences that come after. Shador Sanders, he's going to have a press conference, and I don't know. We'll see what it looks like. He came out today and said he shouldn't have to throw because he's a first round talent. I get it. There's plenty of tape. There's 4 years of tape on him, on his arm accuracy, on his arm strength. So I get it. I see where he's coming from. But let's move on to the Myles Garrett trade rumors. I mean, I particularly cannot remember a player like Myles Garrett on the market. I personally see two suitors for Myles Garrett, the Bills or the Packers. I've seen some rumblings with the Lions being in the mix, but they've got Aiden Hutchinson coming back, so I don't see the validity in that very much. But if you really think about the Bills and how much they've struggled to get past Patrick Mahomes, it is a crime. It really is. Sorry, Chiefs fans. But if you're looking at it from the other side of the fence and you wouldn't have been able to get past the Bills for whatever reason, it's a crime. The type of stats that Josh Allen has is ridiculous to not have even been to a Super Bowl. He is number one in so many quarterback categories. I do feel that you can continue to bring back Sean McDermott because he is a really great coach. He's great at scheming his defense, but Allen is in his prime for maybe 3 to 4 more years. And you have Von Miller, who has kind of been a disappointment as to why he was brought in. He was brought in to hound and harass Patrick Mahomes and all the other quarterbacks, but mainly Patrick Mahomes, because the first year in the playoffs that the Chiefs and the Bills played each other, the Bills obviously saw that they needed to add more defensive pressure to Patrick Mahomes. So my question for you is, what would you give up for Myles Garrett? I know it's a non-quarterback, and I also know that the Bills check most of the boxes when it comes to the players on the offensive side of the ball. Do you give up 2 first-round picks?
I wouldn't give up Myles Garrett for anything. I mean, he hasn't reached his 30s yet. I don't think so.
He's 29.
29. Still got one more year, but I think there's only one way that they don't keep him, for money purposes. I mean, a lot of teams let go star players for money purposes. Feel like they can get someone in the draft or something. But I think the only way they would get that trade off or, let Myles Garrett go is they're not going to want an offensive player. I wouldn't think so. I mean, their defense without Myles Garrett is going to be weak on the inside. I think they'd want someone on the D line or they want a linebacker. But I don't think they would go for a linebacker in the trade.
I mean, outside of Aaron Donald in his prime, this is the only quarterback I personally would not hesitate to give 2 first-round picks for. I mean, as I said, he's 29 years old. So I think you have to do what you need to do in order to get Garrett on your team if you're Buffalo. You have been a player or two away from beating the Chiefs when it mattered most. You've beaten them in the regular season, but in the playoffs is where it matters. And we've seen what Garrett does in the playoffs. I mean, yeah, they have Von Miller, but when they signed him, it just seemed like they were reaching a little bit. They overpaid him, and so it didn't exactly fit the mold, so to speak. You would also be giving Garrett his 3rd contract. And another thing, I don't slight the Cleveland Browns for possibly trading him and seeing what the market is, because I think you can get a pretty historic haul if you're the Browns. I get the pushback. He's 29 years old. But Reggie White, when he was traded, he was 32. When he was traded to the Packers. And we all know how that worked out. But Garrett is 29 years old, and he is a freak of nature that is going to age well with his body type. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the videos, like when he was at the NBA All-Star game. Dude looked like a freaking nature, like he belonged on the court. And then there's videos of him jumping out of a pool in the deep end, just completely jumping out of the pool. Like, 2 examples. So I wouldn't even worry about giving up a haul for him if you're the Bills, because you're going to be getting a dominant player on the defensive side of the ball that is going to constantly add pressure, get sacks, and that is something they have needed desperately, especially against the Chiefs. Nobody has ever questioned his work ethic, his being in shape, his off-the-field problems, because there have been none. But if you're the Browns, is it the right time to blow it up? You got Deshaun Watson's weird freaking contract that they have to deal with because no team is dumb enough to take that on, especially with his porous gameplay and his constant injuries. And you're drafting 2 overall, not to mention your best player once out of town. The Browns are just in a weird situation. So what do you think, Jordan? Do they blow it up?
Well, with their first-round picks that they have, I think they could get some young talent. But like you said, the Bills are going to have to give up something for Myles Garrett. They're not going to let go of Myles Garrett easily. Because on the defensive side, the Bills have struggled against good teams like the Chiefs past few years in the playoffs, but they would be a near complete team for the next season if they got Myles Garrett. But the Browns are going to want picks and they're going to want valuable players. They're not going to give them up for free.
See, I particularly think that unless there's a particular player that they want, I think that if you give them 2 firsts and 2 seconds, that may seem a lot, but you're looking at a generational player here who's going to play for at least another 5 or 6 years. But if you give up that kind of haul, maybe even throw a 3rd in there, but you have to, as a Bills organization, you have to figure out how bad do you want it. How bad do you want to get past Patrick Mahomes, who is just completely beating you every single year you face him in the playoffs? But when you think of Myles Garrett, I actually feel bad for him. Okay? Not going to a Super Bowl so far in his career, but is this a power move for him? If the Browns threw a $150 million fully guaranteed contract on his desk right now, would he accept it? Or is he just done with not winning anything and fully accepting that he isn't going to win in Cleveland? You got Burrow and Lamar in your division, and so he's saying, get me the heck out of here. I'm done.
Yeah, if I was him this late in his career, I would want out. I mean, you're 29. You've been a great player a lot of years of your career, and there's a lot of teams that would want him. A lot of teams that have money to pay. I don't think he's going to go to some team like the Titans because they're obviously not, and they're not going to go to the playoffs. I mean, I'm sorry, Titans fans, but it's just not happening.
I'm not even mad at that statement.
Right.
I'm a Colts fan, so that is what it is.
But
yeah, he's not going to the Titans.
I
wish he would. I really do.
I mean, he'll probably do what Derrick Henry did. I mean, Derrick Henry didn't go to the playoffs with the Titans, no matter how much he did. I mean, he racked up over 2,000 yards one season, still didn't go to the playoffs. And then he racked up, I think, around 2,000 this year, went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I think Myles Garrett's going to do that.
I mean, just like you were telling me earlier, there's reports that the GM from the Browns doesn't even want to get rid of him. And I understand that aspect, but, do you want a player of Myles Garrett's caliber to be on your team when you're basically going to be completely rebuilding? You're going to be selecting a quarterback at number 2, and either that or you're going to trade back and try to get more draft capital. You have glaring holes on your entire team. Like, you traded away your best wide receiver this season to the Bills. I mean, why not continue to trade another prospect and get more draft capital? Because if you truly are rebuilding and you want to build this thing right, you got to get your draft capital. You can't just have your foot on the brake expecting just to magically have draft picks thrown in your pockets. That's not how the NFL works. So the Cleveland Browns, I understand they are a completely horrible run organization, but you need to take advantage of the player that you have on your team and just do right by him.
I mean, there's one thing they could do. They could throw out a trade for Myles Garrett and see who offers. Because there's a lot of teams that are weak in the linebacker category. I mean, teams with the losing season this season, they're definitely going to throw some stuff in, but all they can do is do the first round picks, second round. I mean,
yeah,
picks. But I think that if they throw out a trade, GM might decide that he wants him gone so he can get some young talent. Because like you said, they're going to rebuild. You can't rebuild with guys that are getting owed on your team.
Yeah, you just can't. And speaking of another team that's going to be rebuilding here shortly, a team that's basically been rebuilding for the past decade, and they just can't get it right. The New York Football Giants. Should they trade the number 3 pick to the Rams for Stafford? This is a valid question. It's been going around in the NFL circles. So let's just touch on it. This is just another hot talking point is Stafford's upcoming contract. It's been reported that his agent and the Rams are going to meet at the combine and try to hammer out a deal. Both sides like each other. I mean, if you saw Stafford's house, he doesn't want to move. I mean, if you really want to go back into time, like he grew up in Texas, he went to Georgia, both warm climates. He wants to stay in Los Angeles, another warm climate. But if the numbers can be right, both sides will get this deal done. He understands the importance of Sean McVay, Puka Nacua. There is another option on the table in Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think they're going to go that route. Rodgers is older and Stafford is just better at this point in both of their careers. But here's an interesting thing here. The Giants are obviously in line to draft a quarterback here. But do they trade for Stafford if the Rams can get a deal done? Because this isn't exactly a great draft class. You got Shador Sanders, Cam Ward, that will go in the first round. So it's safe to say that this isn't a great draft class by any means. I mean, you have Jackson Dart. I understand, Lane Kiffin is trying to hype him up to go in the first round, but I just don't see it. But would you swap picks? Would the Giants be inclined to swap their number 3 pick for Stafford? In any other draft, I'd probably be against it, but this draft class doesn't have the greatest quarterbacks in it. So hypothetically, what would the Rams do if they got the number 3 pick? They would trade down and gather even more draft picks. The Giants are going to draft a quarterback or get Stafford and sign him maybe to a 3 to 4 year contract. Draft a quarterback in year 2 of the contract so they don't handcuff themselves in the process and just tell the Rams, you can have the number 3 pick and we'll take your number 26 pick. I wouldn't have a problem doing that because, for one, the Giants have been borderline unwatchable for a decade. The GM is on the hot seat. And between Jaden Daniels and the roster of the Eagles, you aren't even close to being competitive at this point. So as a GM, I think you have to make this move if you're the Giants.
Yeah, the Giants have talent on the offensive side. I mean, we saw Neighbors. I mean, he was incredible this season as a rookie. And then, I mean, you got Darius Slayton. I mean, he's not the greatest, but he's reliable. But I think if you're the Giants, you're going to want that veteran quarterback. I mean, he played with Calvin Johnson. I would want him on my team. I mean, yeah, Cooper Kupp for seasons, Puka Nacua. You're going to want that because he can develop your wide receiver. And even if he does retire after a few seasons and you have to be looking for another quarterback, your wide receiver will be developed because he did play with Calvin Johnson. I mean, you can't make a better argument than that.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the pushbacks if you're a Giants fan as well. You cannot give up the number 3 pick for Stafford. Don't do it. This is not the type of draft. The quarterback is not exactly elite, and I don't believe that you're getting Cam Ward in this position. You're number 3. You're in prime position for a great quarterback, a position that your team has struggled with for close to a decade. Now, Stafford has made over $220 million in Detroit. His earnings over his career is $360 million. When his career is over, he will easily be over $400 million. So with the taxes and agent fees, he will have a net of over $200 million. And this isn't even taking into account what he's made on endorsements. Saying that, Wouldn't it make sense at this point in his career to go the Tom Brady route? He knows he has an elite coach with McVay. The organization is run great. You are an upper tier market where endorsements come running your way. If I were Stafford, I would do whatever it takes. He's making $27 million. Why not do a 2-year, $20 million contract? McVay, you go out and get the players because we were one of the few teams that gave the Eagles a run. They're right. They are right there. So take a friendly discount, Stafford. You made all that money. Do the Brady thing. And I know what everyone is going to say. Don't count anybody else's money. I get it. But this man has made so much money in his career and played for a crap franchise before. If you're Stafford at 37 years old, do you want to go to another garbage franchise like the Giants? He did this for 15 years already. Or do you want to take the discount and help the Rams get right?
I mean, I'd take Stafford if I was the Giants. I mean, he has been to the Super Bowl. He has experience with, an average offense. I mean, like I said earlier, Calvin Johnson. But the quarterback situation, Giants, the past 5 years has been bad. I mean, first they signed Daniel Jones to a huge contract for no reason.
$40 million per. More than Stafford.
And then they really just haven't had much luck. They had Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito. I mean, they had Tyrod Taylor from 2023. They've just had a lot of trouble. I think Stafford can solve their problems in this coming year. And maybe the year after that. I mean, Giants do have problems on their defense, which Stafford, he has experience with having a bad defense in his career. But I think that would be the best thing for the Giants, but I don't think it would be the best idea for Stafford. That's the only thing that's going to disable that trade, because Stafford's going to want to go to a winning team, but who's going to take it? He's 37.
Yeah, you got a few years left. But, continuing on with this, when you think of the Rams and the way they do contracts, except for the Todd Gurley contract, I know everybody's waiting for me to throw that out there. Besides that Todd Gurley contract, they have been pretty good where they got burned by the contract. So you have to wonder if the Rams are going to get this done. Like, the Rams aren't going to bring out the horse and say, here you go. You're the highest paid quarterback now. That's not how it's going to work. That's not how they do business. They're a very well-run organization. They are frugal, if anything. It's not like when he was a quarterback for the Lions where they gave him whatever he wanted. I do think both sides have negotiating power here. Like, the Rams know they have what they have in Stafford, and they aren't in the business of figuring things out as they go along. That is not exactly best for business, but the Rams have some leverage here as well. They know Stafford wants to stay. Like, what teams are going to trade for him? The Giants or the Titans? Going from the Rams, who are just in the NFC Championship, to these teams would be just foul and wouldn't be great business for Stafford himself. But do not rule out Aaron Rodgers going to the Rams. And you may think I'm crazy, but if a deal can't be done, then the Rams will go in a different direction. And Rodgers would be good here under a McVay offense. And Rodgers, he had a 98 passer rating in the last 10 games under the most dysfunctional team in the NFL. The biggest problem that I see with that happening is the fact that Rodgers doesn't like to get hit. And Stafford will stand in there and take hit after hit.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems that would lead to that Aaron Rodgers trade. Like him going to the Rams wouldn't be a bad idea for veteran purposes. I mean, he could influence the younger quarterbacks in the room, which every coach would want that. They're not going to overpay him. Like you said, that's not what the Rams do since, Todd Gurley. But I think they're going to give him a low contract. But if I was Rodgers, I would just take the contract because I wouldn't want to stay at the Jets. I mean,
he got cut from the Jets.
Oh, he got cut from the Jets.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is injury prone, so I wouldn't put him out there every single game of the season. But they don't really have depth in the quarterback room, except for Stafford. Stafford, of course, is 37.
I mean, they drafted that kid out of Georgia a couple of years ago.
They haven't done anything with him. I mean, he's had injuries. I mean, you can't stop injuries from young players, but Stetson Bennett, his height, it affected the draft. I mean, he's like, I don't think he's even 6 foot. I don't know how well that's going to work, him seeing over the O-line. We all know how big the O-linemen are. I think that Rodgers is the best idea for the Rams because Rodgers could teach stuff to Stetson Bennett, and Bennett could be a valuable playmaker in the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, Stetson Bennett right now, he's 28 years old. So, yeah, he spent a lot of time at Georgia. It's just, you're right, they do not have a lot of depth. And so what's probably going to end up happening if they can't get a deal done is they'll bring in a free agent. If Darnold is on the table, I would be surprised if the Rams do not go after him. But who knows how this is going to work out. We're just spitballing here. But basically, free agency starts in 2 weeks? Yeah, I think you should expect some episodes when it comes to free agency. To me, free agency is probably the greatest time of the year, except for when your team is drafting, and then when the draft actually happens, you feel like crawling into a hole because why did they draft him? Stuff like that. But let's just move on to Luka Dončić. He's been with the Lakers for 24 days now. And so he played his 4th game with the Lakers against the Denver Nuggets, which was basically his coming out party. He had 32 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals. And you could see that Luka was starting to find himself within the offense. The Lakers went to Denver and they won by 23 points. Let me say that again. The Lakers went to Denver, who was on a 9-game winning streak, and won by 23 points. Yes, Jokic had his triple-double in that game. You're not going to stop that. But throughout the entire game, you could see how difficult the Lakers were making things for him. But after a couple of rough games, Luka is acclimating to his new environment. He finally found some rhythm in this blowout win against the Nuggets. But in my eyes, the key to the further success of the Lakers this season is going to be playing around Doncic's superior playmaking in terms of football. He is the quarterback, and LeBron James is the wide receiver. The trade fundamentally shifted the Lakers' timeline, but also it shifted their entire identity with his skill set. Dončić needs the ball in his hands, and he needs the freedom to make decisions on the fly, when to pass, when to score, and when to look for the foul. For a man of his talents, even LeBron James is willing to change his game to fit a new role. And that is exactly what he did against the Nuggets.
Yeah, I was surprised by the Luka Dončić trade. I mean, on the other side, it's bad for the Mavericks because Anthony Davis got injured. You know, he was averaging about 30 points on the Lakers. He was a good player. I mean, he's been with the Lakers for a long time. But Luka has averaged 19 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists on the Lakers, and that paired with Austin Reeves and LeBron James, that's a good trio right there. I mean, he did improve LeBron James' points per game to 28 points per game. I think Luka, this first season, this whole season is going to be about him trying to fit in this new environment. I mean, in Dallas, he got the ball whenever he wanted to. I mean, who was going to get the ball? Kyrie was going to get the ball, but Kyrie's getting up there in age. But even Luka was surprised by this trade. He came out and said this was a big shock. That was shocking to me. He's been their best player for years since they drafted him. But yeah, I think it's a good fit for Los Angeles.
So there was an interview after the Nuggets Lakers game, and let's just show you this interview. It's probably one of the more real interviews that you're going to see from an athlete.
Who was with Lisa?
Luka, Mike just said it. You've been smiling all night long. Just what felt better tonight?
Just trying to feel like myself a little bit, playing this game. This was what I love, so I'm just finally, being myself a little bit. So that's why I was smiling the whole game.
There's been so much talk about you fitting in with the Lakers, about you fitting in with LeBron James. Just how were you able to find a rhythm with LeBron tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think we still got a lot of improvement. I just can't play. This is my fourth game. So, chemistry takes time. But you see today, after 3 games, you saw today that it's getting better. So every day is going to get better.
It's just your 4th game, like you said, with the Lakers. You've gone through so much in the last 3 weeks. You've had to adjust to so much. What have the last 3 weeks been like for you personally?
Hard, different, but I'm happy to be playing basketball. So like I say, every day is going to get better to me. I'm happy to be here. Play with these guys, been incredible. So I'm happy for the new journey.
Keep smiling.
Thank you.
Mike.
All right, so we saw the little interview there. I'm not sure how the quality of the video was for you, Jordan. Was it good?
It was good.
Okay. So let's just discuss that. 4 games in, everybody was freaking out because, he was averaging 14.7 points per game. His field goal percentage was 32%. It was horrible. But really, for all of those, I guess there was really only one way to put it. Haters out there that want to continue to say that LeBron is the reason why players cannot hit their maximum potential. Yes, Luka came into the game on Saturday night against the Nuggets not playing well. But it usually takes a team that is assembled. Say it's a superstar team that's assembled. Let's rewind to the Miami Heat when they had a super team with Bosh, Wade, and LeBron James. Did you see them just going nuts within the first 4 games? No, because you have to have that team chemistry. And when you are a newly acquired player, you have to get Luka to figure out how he is going to fit within the offense. So I think you guys need to pump the brakes and realize this isn't the NFL where you can just plug and play players. Or the NBA is actually you have to learn within the offense and see how you're going to fit within those schemes. So y'all need to chill out, go play some 2K and relax a little. If anyone thought he was going to hit the ground running right off the jump, you should probably reevaluate how you watch basketball. Luka finding himself within 4 games is actually pretty wild to me.
I mean, it took him a little while to figure things out with the Mavericks and his teammates. Luka is such a great player. That's not me hyping him up. I mean, he's averaged over 25 points his whole career. I mean, I can't name a player these days that is averaging more than that their whole career. I mean, I probably can, but there's a lot of players. But Luka has been great his whole career. I think that it's going to take him this season to fully have that connection. It's not going to be like a full connection with his teammates, but it's going to take him a little while to figure things out. So, like you said, you need to chill. Like, he's going to figure things out.
I mean, if you look at LeBron's past, he's been the primary initiator of the offense on every team he's played on, and the entire game plan has been centered around him. With the Heat, Cavaliers, and early in his Laker days, LeBron was always in control, making plays and setting the table for others, with career averages of 27 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 7.4 assists per game. The addition of Luka may have compromised the Lakers' defense a little bit, but it gave the franchise face and leader for the next 10 years. Besides being an unmatched scorer and ball handler, Luka's court vision is one of the few in the league that's comparable to LeBron's, which is why LeBron does not mind taking a so-called back seat to Luka. And you saw LeBron James on Saturday night. I don't know how to explain it, but it looked like a little kid playing basketball on a court at a YMCA. He was having so much fun. It almost looks like he's rejuvenated as well with Luka. And one other thing that I'm going to share here is I came across a photo today, and it's just kind of wild to me. So it was reported a couple weeks ago that Luka was at 270 pounds. Okay, so if you look at the pictures side by side, this was the picture on the left was when it was his first game, and the second picture was taken a couple of days ago. You can obviously tell that he has lost some weight, but my biggest issue with this whole thing was it just feels like this was the NBA pushing another narrative. He weighs 270 pounds. He eats hot dogs and fries all day. That was another one that I saw. He drinks a beer before the game and after the game. Have you ever thought about it's the atmosphere that you're in? And also, on top of that, when players are injured, they put on weight. Just look at Zion Williamson. Okay? He recently came off the injured list. And he looks like he's in the best shape of his life. It's crazy what happens when you're injured. There isn't a lot of accountability. You're away from the facility most of the time. So these GMs and these head coaches, they're not going to have their eyes on you. That's one thing. But to push this narrative that he weighed 270 pounds, and I saw this today where they say that he is down to 235 pounds. That's a load of crap. That is what you call the media, the powerful king media, pushing a narrative, trying to make a superstar look like they are just a complete piece of crap. And that is what I severely dislike about the media. If you're going to push this narrative that Luka has a bad work ethic, that he has, bad conditioning, and he just eats whatever he wants and he does whatever he wants because he's Luka. Y'all need to stop that stuff because that's just too much.
Yeah, you could say he has bad work ethic, but I'm pretty sure he's averaged more than 20 points his whole career. So I think that takes work ethic. And then I think the whole thing about his weight, all of that, he wouldn't be able to lose all that weight in just 24 days.
Not to cut you off, but if he loses 35 pounds in 24 days, I want to get in touch with his agent because put me on that diet.
Yeah, we've all seen pregame rituals and all that stuff players do before that. I mean, there's players that smoke before the games. There's players that drink before the games. It doesn't change how they play. There's some players that do smelling salts before the game. It's just their way of playing the game, and not all players are the same. The game changes every year. The game isn't as it was in the 80s, but I think Luka has his way of playing the game, and he plays it pretty well. But the media is going to throw a bunch of stuff out there just for some likes or anything.
But let's just throw some final stats at you. Luka Dončić and LeBron James have both put up absurdly impressive numbers in their 6+ seasons. They also had the exact same win-loss record through the first 426 regular season games, with 242 wins and 184 losses. Are the only two players in NBA history to average at least 27 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, and 7 assists per game in their careers. Are they going to be the favorites to win the Western Conference?
I think they could be. I mean, of course, there's competition throughout the whole NBA. Who's going to be the best team this season? I mean, I think we know who's the best record in the NBA, but I think they could be a great team once Luka, LeBron, everyone start to come together, because they're not going to be the best teammates at first glance.
All right. Well, hey, before you leave, give this video a thumbs up. Can you do that? YouTubers, it really helps us out. Pop in a big way. Everything is free here. That is all we ask of you. Leave a comment below. And if you're on the podcast Stratosphere on Apple or Spotify, drop us a 5-star rating and review, and go ahead and subscribe to the show. It does help us out tremendously. So thank you guys for doing that. Also follow us on all social media platforms at Hot Zone Sports and join the sports pages that is meant for you, because this is truly why we do this. This is not for me. It is for you. For the people. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, click that notification button, and have a blessed week. Peace.